Your Ansible playbook reports changed every single run, even when no variables change. The culprit? Invisible whitespace differences in your Jinja2 template. Let's break down Ansible Jinja2 Templates, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. Ansible Jinja2 templates are configuration files containing Jinja2 expressions that Ansible evaluates during playbook execution. The Ansible, built-in, template module processes these files, replacing variables, applying filters like default and join, and executing control structures like % for %. This lets you create one template that works across hundreds of servers, each getting its own customized config. The Ansible, built-in, template module evaluates Jinja2 expressions before copying. The copy module transfers files as is. If you use copy on a file with, the output will contain literal, var, strings, a classic mistake that causes silent config failures. Always use template when your source contains Jinja2 syntax. Here's a typical task using the template module. Notice the source file ends in J2, a convention that signals Jinja2 content. The module renders the template and copies it to the destination, then notifies the handler to restart Nginx if the file changed. This complete playbook shows the correct pattern. The template task is followed by a handler that restarts Nginx only when the config changes. This ensures idempotency, no unnecessary restarts. Jinja2 in Ansible supports 4 main constructs. Variables output values, filters transform them, tests evaluate conditions, and blocks control flow. Always test for defined before using a variable that might be missing to avoid Ansible undefined variable errors. This template demonstrates setting variables, using a test with is version, applying the default filter, and joining a list. The default filter with true second argument handles undefined variables gracefully. These 5 filters are workhorses in production templates. Default with true second arg handles undefined variables. Join turns lists into strings. Select filters items by a test. Map extracts attributes or applies filters. Regex replace does pattern substitution, but beware of backslash escaping in YAML. This template generates an etc. hosts file. It uses sort on the group, then accesses hostvars to get IPs. The second loop uses select, match, to filter database hosts matching a pattern. Chaining filters makes complex transformations readable. Whitespace Control is the one cause of spurious, changed status. Use % and % to trim whitespace around tags. You can also set trim blocks equals true and lstrip blocks equals true in Ansible, CFG to reduce issues globally. The first loop uses % to trim the newline after the for tag, preventing blank lines. The second loop without control may introduce extra whitespace. Always use diff to see invisible whitespace differences. When using regex replace with user-provided input, escape the pattern with regex escape to avoid unintended matches. Example, user input regex escape rejects replace old, new. The map extract filter is available in Jinja2 2.9+ and Ansible 2.5+. Ensure your control node meets these versions to avoid template syntax error. Complement select with reject to exclude items. Example, items reject equalto, inactive, list, returns all items not equal to inactive. Before deploying a template to production, render it locally to verify output. Use the Ansible command line with the template module and pass your variable files. This catches errors early without touching remote hosts. This script renders config, J2 with variables from vars, iml to /tmp/rendered conf. Use diff to see the output. For a quick check without writing a file, use Ansible localhost mdebug a msg equals, lookup template, template J2, but note limitations with hostvars. Accessing variables from other hosts is done via hostvars hostname variable. Always use a string literal for the hostname, not a variable, to avoid undefined errors. Ensure the referenced host has facts gathered by including it in the play or using delegate to. This template iterates over all hosts and prints their IPs if the fact is defined. The if test prevents crashes when a host is unreachable or facts are missing. Always use is defined before accessing nested facts. Production templates often need to transform complex data structures. Chaining filters like map extract for nested lookups, select to filter, and sort to order is powerful. Always test with local rendering to ensure correctness. This example splits a string into a list, converts each to integer, filters for ports greater or equal 1024, converts back to list, sorts, and joins. Chaining filters in this way is concise and readable. Jinja2 supports template inheritance, but in Ansible it's rarely used. %include% is useful for reusable snippets. However, debugging inheritance chains can be hard. Prefer Ansible's include tasks with template tasks for composability. This shows Jinja2 inheritance with %extends % and %block %. While possible, it's often clearer to use Ansible's task composition. For simple includes, use %include snippet j2%. Before rolling out template changes, use check and diff to preview changes without applying them. Diff shows the unified diff, critical for catching invisible whitespace differences. Include this in your CI pipeline to prevent accidental changes. This command runs the playbook in check mode with diff output, limited to one host. It shows what would change without actually applying. Always do this before deploying template changes to production. The template module is slightly slower than copy due to Jinja2 evaluation. For large fleets, pre-render locally and use copy to distribute if the output is identical across hosts. Otherwise, use throttle to limit concurrent executions. This playbook uses copy for static files and template only when needed. The when condition ensures the template task runs only if the variable is defined, avoiding unnecessary work. Templates can leak secrets if not handled carefully. Use Ansible Vault for secret variables, set no log, true on template tasks to prevent logging rendered content, and restrict file permissions with mode. 600. For extremely sensitive data, consider a secrets manager. This task uses a vault variable for the password, sets restrictive permissions, and enables no-log to prevent the rendered content from appearing in logs. Always use no-log when handling secrets. The template module determines changed status by comparing checksums of the rendered output and the existing file. Whitespace differences cause false positives. Also, the Ansible managed comment includes a timestamp by default, causing a change every run. Set a static Ansible managed string to avoid this. This playbook registers the result of the template task and displays whether it changed. Use diff to see why a change is detected. Avoid dynamic values like Ansible datetime, date, in templates to maintain idempotency. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. We used the copy module instead of template. The source file had server name, but copy transferred it verbatim. The resulting config had a literal server name string, causing the service to fail. The root cause was a simple module choice mistake. Using the copy module instead of the template module caused Jinja2 expressions to be written literally into the config file, leading to malformed configurations and service failures. The fix was straightforward: replace copy with Ansible built-in template. The template module evaluated server name and inserted the actual value. The service started correctly. Always use template for files containing Jinja2 syntax. This is the exact mistake from the incident. Using copy on a J2 file results in literal, var, strings in the output. Always use Ansible built-in template for files containing Jinja2 expressions. Using Ansible datetime, date, or similar dynamic values causes the template to change every run. Replace with a static version string from a variable or use a fixed date format. If dbmaster is not in the current play, its facts are not gathered. The fix is to add a play at the start. Hosts, dbmaster, tasks, setup, or use delegate to gather facts explicitly. In YAML, backslashes must be escaped. The correct syntax is rejects replace \\. Double backslash to represent a single literal backslash. Without it, the pattern is interpreted incorrectly and no replacement happens. To debug template issues, run your playbook with v and diff to see exact changes. For undefined variables, add default, fallback true. Test filter syntax locally using Ansible localhost mdebug. Let's run through some common interview questions. Difference between template and copy. Template evaluates Jinja2, copy transfers verbatim. How to handle undefined variables. Use default filter with true second arg. How to access variables from another host. Use hostvars hostname variable with string literal. And a few frequently asked questions. Can I use Jinja2 inheritance in Ansible? Yes, but prefer %include % or Ansible includes. Why does my template always show changed? Check Whitespace, Ansible managed timestamp or dynamic values. How to escape backslashes in regex replace? Double them, rejects replace, \\. Let's recap the key takeaways. Use template module for J2 files. Control Whitespace with %%. Use default filter with true arg. Render locally before deploy. Ready to go deeper? Up next, Ansible Vault for secrets management, then Ansible error handling, then Ansible file management modules, and Ansible package and service modules. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.